Hello. I struggle with, my whole life has been fear-based and based upon external. And I've now, been on a spiritual journey of knowing that it's all within. But at times I get into my fears and everything that I know goes out the window. And I can't even think of like one little thought that might be close to hope and grace or whatever. And then I get fearful that energy, my vibration's low, and I'm going to bring in all this negative stuff. I'm going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I really don't want to live this way anymore because I have really great work to do. And I know it.
You say fear-based. What do you think your fear is?
Being judged.
Well, that's a valid fear because they will judge you.
Right.
And so if that bothers you, then because people are going to observe you and they can only see you through their framework, and so many people would feel better if you would comply to what they think they need you to do so that they will feel better.
Right.
But you sort of got to get over that.
How do I get over it?
Well, do you enjoy the sensation of fear?
Consciously, no.
So it is easy for you to consciously say that you prefer something that feels different from that, and that's really all that's required. In other words, when you assimilate what you've heard here today, that the sensation of fear always means that you will have activated a vibration that doesn't mesh well with the vibration of who you really are and what you really want, then a conscious awareness that you want to at least try to feel a little better is really all that is necessary. You've been like so many people who haven't been able to quantify your journey. You couldn't tell which way was the right way. And that's always what happens when you are seeking approval from others, because everybody's got a different idea about what approach you should take, and that causes chaos in your vibration as you're trying to please this one and this one and this one. If they'd all just tell the same story, it would be helpful, you see. We see people who are sick, who want to be well, who can't tell when they're moving toward wellness and when they're moving away from wellness. We see people who don't have as much money as they want or the relationship that they want that don't seem to be able to tell what thoughts are taking them toward what they want and what thoughts are taking them away from what they want. And so we want to address your guidance system in a way that helps you to make every journey quantifiable. We don't want you to overcome fear. Jerry and Esther were listening to a recording of a previous workshop as they were driving down the mountain yesterday. And Jerry had told the story of being in a television production years ago, and the wrangler had given him a horse, and Jerry felt very uneasy about the horse. And so Jerry just said, I don't think I'm a good match for this horse. And someone else who was listening accused him of cowardice. They said, you're afraid of that horse. And Jerry said, well, I'm not afraid of it. I just think it's skittish and it will slow the production down. I have to deliver lines. I don't think a jumpy horse is the best horse under these conditions. And the man who was making fun of Jerry jumped on the horse to show Jerry that he could control the horse, and the horse reared up and knocked his front teeth out with his head. And Jerry said, I felt uncomfortable about that horse. Why did that man not feel uncomfortable about that horse? And we said, because he had overcome his fear. In other words, he had stopped paying attention to his guidance long ago, you see. And
right.
So when you feel what you call fear, we don't want you to call it inappropriate or feel embarrassed that you have fear. We want you to be proud of yourself that you have the intellectual awareness that there's a vibration going on within you where something isn't jiving. And then we want you to make an effort to improve the sensation. And we think what goes wrong for most people is that they think that they should be able to jump from fear into bliss just like that. And we know that those vibrational frequencies are far apart. You've got to coax yourself gradually into a better feeling place. And we know that we're having a discussion here because you're wanting to get control of your vibration. But we would never again say, I have had a fear-based life. We would instead say, I've been aware of fear, and formerly I didn't know the message it was giving me. Now I'm appreciative of all emotions, positive or negative, because they help me know the vibrational relationship that I've got going with my own desires. Do you know that if you don't have a strong desire for something, you would not feel fear? The more you want something, then the more sensitive you're going to be to the thought that you're thinking. In other words, if you don't want something and you're focused in opposition of something that you don't want, you're not going to get a strong reading because it's not important. There's not a vibrational relativity within you. If someone you didn't know called you on the telephone and said, hello, you don't know me, I'm just calling to tell you I'll never call you again. You would say, all righty then.
Right.
But if somebody you really care about were to say that to you, you would feel some negative emotion about it because of the vibrational relativity. So, for example, a child doesn't feel fear in the way an adult feels fear because the child is still living in this environment of well-being and is still being guided from broader perspective. In other words, beasts don't feel fear. Their guidance is taking them to where they want to go. They're not running from something they don't want. Mm-hmm. It's hard for you to see that sometimes as you're looking through your human eyes, but when you get connected to Source, you feel a calling toward what you want rather than a running from what you don't want. Whether you call it fear, which means don't go that way, or joy, which means let's go that way, let's call it all guidance, and let's be appreciative of every part of it. And let's begin saying, I have a guidance-based life rather than a fear-based life. Mm-hmm. And now I am aware of my guidance. My journey is always quantifiable, and I so appreciate the emotions that I feel that let me know that I've got something activated by beating the drum of it that isn't doing me any goodness or well-being. And I'm going to see if I can't find something that feels a little gooder, that feels a little relief. And as you do that, before you know it, you will have left fear, that strong fear, so far in your past. You already have. In other words, in large part, what you're talking about is something that you're remembering. Something's going to happen, and you're going to look at it, and you're going to take that hit in your solar plexus when you see something that is really not in harmony with what you want. You're going to have a knee-jerk response to it. But the question is, what do you do next? Do you wallow in it? Do you join groups about it? Do you lie down and die in it? Or do you acknowledge it for what it is and choose something that feels better consistently enough until you're in a new place? This is the way you mold the clay of your life, one subject at a time, one conversation at a time, one friendship or encounter at a time. Just little by little, you choose the better feeling thought until, before you know it, you've cleaned so much up so quickly that you wonder what it ever was that you were so afraid of.
Right.
We don't want you to be afraid of fear. We want you to love fear. We want you to say, fear is that powerful emotion I get when my guidance system is saying, when possible, make a legal U-turn. Because I'm looking and thinking in opposition of something that I want. And usually it comes up when you are disapproving of yourself, when you are finding yourself inadequate, when you are afraid or worried that you're not going to get to where you want to be. In other words, it's always the big issues that bring the feeling of fear. And that's what we hear from you when you say, I have a lot of work to do. I've come here with great reason. Mm-hmm. We like your being sensitive to energy. We don't want you to be sensitive to all energy. We want you to be so sensitive to the energy of your connection that when you diverge from it even a little bit, you don't like it. When Esther has a thought that takes her into a negative emotion, she takes it as hard as she would have in former years if she'd run over someone with her car. In other words, the vibrational relationship, you get used to being in alignment with pure positive energy. And you've got to keep up with your own standard, you see. Mm-hmm. And so when you say I'm sensitive to energy, that's what you mean. I like the energy of connection. And I am not going to abide by the energy of disconnection. But don't beat up on yourself when you're disconnected. Instead, love your guidance.
My other question is, I know that when you do have a thought that you don't feel good about, you're such as walking into a store in a new city and you're afraid that people are looking at you and judging you, and then I go in and I say, well, no, God's within you. You are God. There's nothing wrong with you. is that just putting a Band-Aid on it?
Well,
versus
the reason it feels
looking
to you like you're putting a Band-Aid on it is because that's not solving the situation for you, and here's why. So let's say that for whatever reason you have been fostered in an environment where you were trained to care deeply about what other people thought, and
right.
You're not alone in that, because most people need to control your behavior so that they can feel good. Happened in your home, it happens in the school system, it happens in the traffic. In other words, there are so many things around you where they expect your behavioral compliance, or they won't feel so good and they'll punish you because they want to feel good. In other words, that's sort of the way your physical world has come around to. So let's say, for whatever reason, in whatever way it happened to you, you're very sensitive to the opinions of others, and you walk into an environment, like you said, and you feel them looking at you and disapproving. And you think, I don't like this feeling. I should jump into the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, fluffy. I should love them. But you're very far from that vibration. And so when someone is looking at you, looking you over, and you can see disapproval in their face, what is the first knee-jerk reaction that comes from you? Most of you. Maybe not you. Don't you want to say, who are you? Don't you want to say, you wear those shoes and you've got the nerve to look at me? Don't you want to say, who combed your hair today? Doesn't just a little feeling of revenge sort of bubble up like a life-giving breath of fresh air? Now, you and a lot of other people may not let yourself go there, because you've been trained to believe that you should have love in your heart, and you should not condemn them just because they're condemning you. But we want to say to you that you can't jump from being condemned and taking it hard all the way into love and sunshine and joy. You can't do it. The frequencies are too far apart. And we think that the knee-jerk response of revenge or anger is an improved vibration for you. And what we feel from you and from so many who are sensitive and who want to be uplifters is that many of you have disallowed yourself the stepping stones along the way, on the way to your love and appreciation of everyone. It's sort of like Jerry and Esther wanting to go from Phoenix to San Diego and finding themselves in Yuma and being so discouraged that they're not yet in San Diego that they get disoriented and turn around and go back to Phoenix. So they go Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix, Yuma, Phoenix. And in time they say, we'll never get to San Diego. We must not be worthy of San Diego. We must have done something in a past life that prevents us from getting to go to San Diego. There must be something in Yuma that is a higher purpose for us. God must want us to be in Yuma. We must have done something really bad in a past life, and karma tells us that Yuma is our place. And we say, you come up with a lot of really funny things to explain why you don't just line up with what you want, you see.
Right.
So our message to you is, you don't line up all at once, you line up gradually. We like that your life is fear-based, in the sense that we like that you are sensitive to your vibration. And now we think, for the first time consciously in this human experience, you now understand what your emotions are giving you a feedback on.
Definitely.
God is always within you, and you are never separated from that energy that you are calling God. But you can get fixated on something that does not allow that energy to be felt by you. You are the only one who can disallow the energy that you are calling God in your life. And you are the only one who can find a vibration that allows it, you see. There are so many people in this world today, specifically in this nation today, that are using the rhetoric of being in alignment with God, who are nowhere near the vibrational vicinity of the energy of Source.
Right.
And in their despair, they are acting out in ways of trying to level the playing field or trying to regain their power. Religion has almost completely become fear-based, you see. And when God is the opposite of fear-based, God is the anti of fear. God is the presence of well-being, and there is only a source of well-being, you see. So when you start looking at it that way, and you start appreciating the guidance that fear is giving you, then you don't get on a horse and get your teeth knocked out. Instead, you sensed it ahead of time, and even if somebody made fun of you for not getting on the horse, you've still got your teeth.